Thanks everyone for joining and thanks for hanging around for the tail end of the afternoon. I am Aaron Revelle and this is Pursuit Minerals. Talking about lithium, the naughty word in the room, we are a lithium developer in Argentina focused on our Rio Grande Sur project, which is about a 10,000 hectare land position on the aptly named Rio Grande Salar. Pursuit has had a few iterations, however we're only just about a year into being a lithium producer where we've made some significant headway, really focused on the project and our pathway to production. So for us, we have a small JORC resource, about 250,000 tonnes, lithium carbonate equivalent of 350 mgli, very similar to Argentina Minerals where they were when they first started off. And as mentioned, we currently have our drill rigs spinning, and you'll see some of that footage in the presentation. More importantly, we have a lithium carbonate plant, a 250-tonne stage 1 plant. Actually, some of the people in the room have talked about commodities, and the words of one of my earlier mentors, a chap called Gordon Toll, who was the chair of Fortescue Metals Group between 2005 and 2007, used to say, it doesn't matter what you have, if you can't produce it, it is meaningless, which is a very apt and appropriate sort of foray into lithium and the development of supply side response. We're in Argentina, an exciting jurisdiction, especially if you track the new Argentinian president. Despite his eccentrics and some very interesting personal decisions, Argentina is starting to have a reduction in inflation, interest rates are being lowered, so we are becoming a very investment-friendly jurisdiction. A few familiar faces on our board. I'm joined by our chair, Peter Wall, from Steincrest Pagan. Anyone in Perth will generally know who Pete is. Also, one of my other mentors, Tom Eadie, quite well known in the Melbourne circles, especially if you follow Southern Cross Gold. We're sitting at about a 15 mil market cap. We're currently drilling at the moment with a little over $1 million sitting in the bank. Really talking about Pursuit, I always put it into a couple of fundamental pillars. You know, where are we? What are we doing? And it's really focused on those 2 points. A lithium producer. So for us, we have a 250-tonne plant. Where that is that plant has recently been commissioned, and you can see that on the left there. Doesn't look like much, but that's what actually produces lithium carbonate. So we're in the process of producing our first lithium carbonate to a technical and battery grade, 99.95%, and the plant's going through that stage where the intention is to have our first run of carbonate within the next couple of months, of which we're currently drilling. So while we're drilling, we're currently harvesting brine through packer samples, putting those into small test ponds, where once you go through the evaporation process, we'll then truck that brine down to Salta, where the plant is, and look to produce the first lithium carbonate from the evaporated brine through the plant. That's a real technical de-risking of the process, showing that the supply chain actually works. From there, the intention is to build our evaporation ponds and have a 250-tonne continuous operation built at site. The 250-tonne number was from a factor 80 increase that gets us to our 20,000 tonnes. So for us, we're on track with that plant, has been commissioned and is in the process of our first production. We're currently in the process of upgrading the resource, which is through drilling. We're doing about 2,500 to 3,000 meters at the Rio Grande Salar. So when we first put the project together, we chose Rio Grande as it had an already existing NI 43-101 of 2.1 million tonnes. So unlike explorers potentially looking for lithium, we knew there was lithium there. It's now looking at how much is under the surface. For us, we have 2 neighbours. We have a bigger state oil company called Plus Petrol, and we also have a junior TSX company that's in the region as well. The TSX company recently released a maiden NI 43-101 of 2.3 million tonnes, around 600 mgli from 2,500 metres of drilling. So for us, we have a blueprint to a significant resource upgrade, where at the moment we're about to hit our first hole. For us, we always go back to, and if you've ever worked at Rio Tinto in any of the M&A departments, in your initiation, they always have the equation T1 equals SSG, size, scale, and grade. So for us, when we're looking at the resource, the grades of Rio Grande are some of the best in Argentina. The TSX competing company, they hit 950 mgli at 2 kilometers where the crow flies from one of our tenements. For us, that 950 is some of the highest grades in Argentina, ahead of Hombre Muerto, which is Arcadium lithium, ahead of Olaroz, ahead of some of the more well-known and in production salars. So for us, looking at the size, anything above 1 million tonnes, you're gearing towards a 50-year mine life. you're starting to get to the point of a grade with 900 mgli, and also the scale. 20,000 tons of a lithium operation that's quite a large operation. There's not many of those around, and it's all to the established producers like SQM, Albemarle, and Arcadium. So for us, working through our resource upgrade, working through the production, that all ends up in a bankable feasibility study. At the end of the year, we're looking to hopefully have that, where for us, we already have a good handle on the chemistry and understanding of the process to production. It's about meeting supply side response. Then on top of that, having our resource upgrade, where for us, we've got a really solid exploration target. It's in the millions of tons. And for us, we have some neighbors who have already quantified and shown some of that exploration with deeper drilling yields higher grade brine and also more lithium than expected. So very focused on our strategy to really work towards that tier 1 style project. We have size, scale, and grade, and a project that can come online into production. For us, we're ahead of many other junior lithium companies exploring TSX, ASX, where they may be relying on unfocused or unproven technology such as DLE. It's always the naughty word in the room, but DLE, whether you're for or against it, it doesn't have a commercial scale operation above 20,000 tons in existence. They don't exist. Now, not saying it won't, not saying it can't, it potentially can, but for us, we're working on the established methodologies of evaporation, which is well known with Albemarle, SQM, Arcadium, and a lot of the lithium carbonate coming out of the South American region. So that's a quick look at our plant. Lovely and shiny, working there. We're expecting that to keep on working towards that first production of lithium carbonate over the coming months. And it's really about hitting that grade. A key thing for lithium is it's very misunderstood in the market in that it isn't really a commodity, in that it is end user specific. So when you're actually dealing with a customer, they first test the product for their specification. The impurity profile is very important, as different customers all may take, say, a technical grade of 99.9% lithium carbonate, but the impurity profile can be different for different customers. So for us, we're working with a couple of groups, both Asia and also Europe. The Europeans have a different appetite compared to the Asian customers, but fortunately for us, we have this plant that can meet most specs that we've had. We've got a few parties in with us at the minute, and they're all specs that we can work towards. As mentioned, we intend to move the plant from that location up to site at Rio Grande. That's actually Rio Grande there. It's a very amazing place if you ever have the fortunate ability to go up to these salars. They are another world. For us, you can see our evaporation pond layout on the right there. So that's currently on with the Salta Mining Secretary, the province we're based, and we're going through the environmental approvals now to have that going construction, where we hope to get that going later in the year. As mentioned, our current drill program, so that's the what we're working through at the minute. It's been a nightmare getting this going. We had a flood of epic proportions, snow and safety, which delayed us a couple of weeks. But as you can see, cores are starting to be harvested and brine samples are coming out of the package. So we're anticipating results to be coming out of that over the coming weeks as we complete hole 1. It's a program where we're actually intending to go, you can see on the left, stage 1, we will have our first 4 holes. And then on top of that, we're looking to do some of the holes from stage 2 and move the drill rig straight onto that program. We have a very unique land position in that north, which is very similar to the geology of Galan lithium, for any of those who follow that, where the brine and the aquifers actually extend out under the andesites and breccias, and you can pick up lithium from the side there. So as mentioned, that northern tenement is where one of the high-grade intercepts above 900 mgli was hit. So for us, very focused on completing that drill program and aptly moving up for a few additional holes as we target that resource upgrade. So where we are is we look at execution, and if you actually look at where we've come in the last 12 months, we've defined a resource, we have a plan, we're moving towards first production, and we're operating in a jurisdiction that's now becoming quite favorable. The lithium market in itself, we're seeing a lot of resurgence. You know, everyone says it was cratered, but no one seems to say how it's up 20% year on year. You know, we're looking at Chinese lepidite that's come out of the market. We're looking at an increased demand in terms of end user product. I think it was one of the earlier panelists mentioned PDAC. We were no shortage, and there was a running joke along the lithium guys on the road where the guy from Ford was running around going, "Oh, can anyone get me 10,000 tons of lithium carbonate?" And everyone's answer was no. So it really shows that there's a lot of demand coming from end users, and that's where you start getting these price trends. You know, the incumbents will invest on the doorstep of EV supply chain being increased. And we're seeing that through programs like the IRA in America, especially where where I was talking at a conference in Asia, there's a view you'll start to have a separate pricing index where you'll get an American pricing index to an Asian pricing index. The market in itself has gone through multiple cycles. So people say, oh, it's $15,000 a ton. It's horrible. No, it's not. It's great. For a lithium producer in a brine region, you're generally in the lowest cost quartile, which is $3,500 to $4,000 per ton. So you're still making a clear $10,000 margin, which is very healthy. In 2020, the price was $6,800 per ton, which is that's a bear market. That's where you're starting to get back to those historical levels of $5,000, $6,000, $4,000 per ton. So for us, we're seeing that new price normality rise. If you're a fan of Joe Lowry, Joe's talking about how it's going to level out at $25,000 per ton, which goes back to that size, scale, grade, where most tier one projects are in that lowest cost quartile, of which we fortunately are being a brine producer. So where are we going? We're about to, as mentioned, we've got our initial drill program working. We're working towards that first build up of inventory and first couple of samples of lithium carbonate. Towards the end of the year, we're hoping to commence that relocation of the plant through the evaporation pond construction. We're looking towards the bankable feasibility study, and we're looking towards solidifying offtake partners as we move that forward. The JORC resource upgrade, we're targeting quite a significant upgrade. And for us, it's really looking over the back fence and seeing what some of the numbers are being achieved around us, and they're quite significant in themselves. So for us, really focused on the production, really focused on getting the first samples out, and then that resource upgrade as well. That's my time. Thanks.